rather than the proper Aveda, we will slip into a state of depression. And that's the single most powerful ammunition in the arsenal of the Yetzer Hara. Nothing better for the Yetzer Hara than if we get depressed. The second reason, who remembers the second reason? We haven't quite finished with it. But what was the second reason, you remember? Just at the end of Shir yesterday. Might be by that time your mechin were done, your brains were fried, obviously it was over, anything you taught after 8:22 is always, we're skeptical as to whether or not anything's going to happen with that. The second, that was the first. Good, good was the first reason. We spent a long time yesterday trying to understand that. I mean, it's a whole, it's a whole discussion. Now, just one thing that I did not say yesterday, which I should have relative to Trach Good, so I'll say it today. And I'm going to do tshuva, and I'm going to be besimcha as I do it. The whole discussion of Trach Good that the Rebbe has in that sikha that we were talking about yesterday, and it's quoted here, is based on the Chovos HaLevavis. Chovos HaLevavis is a very early sefer, written by someone named Rav Bachya ibn Pekuda. Do you have a copy? Menachem, do you have a copy? Okay, where are you from, Menachem? LA. I've heard of that. It's just south of Pasadena, LA, I think, right? Isn't that true? So, Manchester's just a little north of Nottingham here. So, it's all based on the Shar HaBitachon, the gate of Bitachon in the Sefer Chovos HaLevavis, which the translated name is Duties of the Heart, which was one of the first Sfarim translated into English when people started translating English Sfarim. And it was published by Feldheim, and it was in stencil form, and it stayed that way for a long time. And I think in the last 10 years they've actually published it with a normal print. But Rav Bachya ibn Pekuda was an early Rishon before Rashi. Right? And he wrote a sefer. It's actually fascinating. It's something you should all read. Read the English translation of his introduction to his book. And it's called the Mahadura Kama of the Baal Shem Tov, the first edition of the Baal Shem Tov, because he writes there, this is 1,000 years ago, he writes there that people's Yiddishkeit is dry and unfeeling. And people are just doing it, they're going through the motions. So it's necessary for a book to be written that talks about how to serve God with a little bit of energy and a little bit of emotion, a little bit of love, a little bit of fear. Which is just fascinating, because if you were to ask someone simply, when the Baal Shem Tov came onto the scene, what was the Baal Shem Tov all about? Adding life to the Yiddishkeit of the Yidden at that time. So that was Bachya ibn Pekuda. And the Rebbe's explanation of Bitachon is all based on that, and based on three different quotes. He quotes the Chovos HaLevavis 3 times. And the most interesting quote is that the Bitachon, and this is based on what we, it's certainly in line with what we saw yesterday, a discussion of this outside, that Bitachon is based on the understanding that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is loving and kind and will do good to those who deserve it and those who don't deserve it. Now that's a rather interesting statement. Now, this is from an early Rishon. Predates the Rambam, predates Rashi. So how in the world do we understand such a statement? Because, of course, that completely and totally undoes the whole notion of schar va'onish, reward and punishment, which is something that we spend a great deal of time not spending a great deal of time on, right? I mean, Chassidim work very hard not to serve God for the sake of reward and punishment. That being said, there's such a reality in the world. That's the way the world works. There's no question. We just try to transcend that because we don't want to serve God, so we'll get a sukaria or we'll avoid a patch. Serve God, hopefully, because God is worthy of our service and we love Him. Okay, that's what we hope. So and Chassidus talks about that at great length. But that doesn't mean there isn't something called schar v'einish. There's something called reward and punishment. It's real. Right? And how can he possibly say that the Eibusher will do good even to the one who doesn't deserve it? And the answer to the question is what we learned yesterday, that the person who acts in a particular situation, as we said, bitachon is relative to a particular situation. It's not a general idea like a mun. Amunah is a general idea. Amunah is something that someone should have at all times. Faith. Someone should always be conscious of God's existence and God's presence in their midst. Bitachon is, relative to a particular situation, the trach good, the positive thought that this is going to work out, and a person has no doubt whatsoever that everything's going to be just exactly the way they want it to be. That itself, and that means they're relying on a Kadosh Baruch Hu's grace and chesed. The reward for that particular service is that the Eibishter will reply in kind. So it's when the Chavez Lava says a person who doesn't deserve, he means in general. If you were to look at this person, does he deserve all sorts of good things from the Eibishter? Well, it might be his service of God is lacking to a great degree. But what about this particular situation that he dealt with within the context of Trach Gut V'Tzayin Gut, tremendous bitachon? The reward for that bitachon is that it'll work out the way he wanted it to work out, which is an astounding idea. And that's bitachon. Therefore, relative to tshuva, a person should already be dancing in the streets because he's so sure that he's going to be able to do tshuva. Trach Gut V'Tzayin Gut.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
let's make it a stupid question.
I doubt it. If it is, we will punish you accordingly based on our sincere connection to the notion of reward and punishment.
Well, I was just wondering, is there any implications or inference here that like one is talking about the present here and on event versus some getting reward in the world to come?
Yes, but you could say, well, the whole notion, Chazal do say, schar mitzvah b'ayal malaika, reward for mitzvah in this world, there isn't. That being said, we still do understand that there is a certain, people are rewarded in this world on some level for positive behavior. So now it's not obvious. When schar mitzvah al malaika certainly means in a general sense, you can't say that this person who seems to be serious about his service of God is going to have an easier life. It doesn't work that way, and anybody who's been alive for more than 10 years has figured that out. Okay. But can a person be rewarded for positive deeds in this world? Absolutely, 100%. And certainly relative to the Eibishter's intervention in a positive way. You would think that intervention wouldn't be relevant to a person who doesn't deserve it. Oh, so that's what the Chavez Levava says, even to the person who does, and he uses the word, person that doesn't deserve it. So the Rebbe explains that in quite an astounding way. Tzemach Tzedek asks the question on the Chavez Levava also, and that's where because the Tzemach Tzedek is the home address of Trach Gut V'Tzayin Gut, right? It's his story. It's the story of the Tzemach Tzedek that we constantly tell. That's bitachon. Bitachon is a Torah unto itself. Al pi Chassidus, it's an amazing world of understanding. What's most challenging about the way that Chassidus explains bitachon is that basically we have complete control over what happens to us. If we desire to use that. Like we said, if you have 3 job opportunities, if you talk good, you want the first one, you'll get it. That doesn't mean it's the right one it might not be the right one for you, so it might be an improper time to invoke that Aveda of bitachon. Just have basic emunah. I applied for 3 jobs, I did my best, and whichever job the Eibishter thinks is best for me, I'll get. But if there's no question, based on our understanding of bitachon, if a person trachut v'tzayin, I'm going to get the first job, the Eibishter is going to orchestrate events that I get the first job, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever, because the Eibishter is kind and good, and that's what I want. Without a shadow of a doubt, no doubts creeping in. That's real, that's very hard, because a person can have doubts creeping in. Well, maybe, no maybes, nothing, not a shadow of a doubt. That's how the Chavez Levavos relates to it. The person has no doubt whatsoever, not a worry he's not worried in any way, shape, or form that any other result will happen. That's hard. It's not just, putting on rose-colored glasses and pretending everything's fine. It's a real Aveda. So if a person is able to reach that state of clarity, so then it'll happen. The Eibishter will respond in kind. That's bitachon. So relative to our own simcha, our own tshuva, besimcha, positivity. Yeah, that's the first answer.
So the first one was we don't have the strength to achieve higher level tshuva, and then we get in depression.
No, the other way around. We don't have the strength for the lower level of tshuva. The lower level of tshuva is tshuva mimariris, bitterness. That's the first level.
And then we get
The second answer was that there's and we had to finish understanding this. There's two different levels of tshuva in the Alter Rebbe: tshuva tata and tshuva ilah, lower level tshuva and upper level tshuva. Lower level tshuva is tshuva mimariris, from bitterness, which we were talking about, right? Tshuva misimcha, joy, is the upper level tshuva, and the Rebbe said something quite astounding, that the last thing we left off with yesterday, and I apologize because you probably didn't sleep last night, was the question as to the seeming contradiction between the first answer and the second answer, because the second answer says that after all we've gone through in Gullus, we are on such a high level, we can go straight to tshuva ilah, straight to higher level tshuva, without the stepping stone of lower level tshuva. Now that seems to contradict what we said in the first answer. The first answer is it seems we're on a low level, and since we're so completely focused on self, if we relate to anything in a negative way, it'll just depress us, right? We'll just focus on how I'm bad, as opposed to understanding that no, I'm not bad. My actions were problematic, and I have to fix my actions, and I'm embittered by those negative actions. But I'm not embittered by the fact that I'm a terrible, horrible person, because I'm not. That's the Mariris. There are terrible, horrible people, but none of them are sitting in this room. Right? There are people who are just horrible people. Okay, but you have to be pretty serious to be a horrible person. Right? Most people are just, are good people who just make serious mistakes in life.
So, what does it mean that we've passed the level? Like, we now no longer have to do tshuva mi Marius because we're higher than it, but at the same time we can't do it.
Right, that seems to be somewhat contradictory, right?
Right.
I mean, the simple shot. The first reason seems to be we're on a lower level. And the second reason we're on a higher level. And what does that mean? Right? It seems rather interesting. So the answer that's generally given for that question is a very interesting answer, actually. And it makes perfect sense. According to the Rebbe, what is the Aveda of our generation? Simcha. Okay. Therefore, what's going to be the biggest klipa of our generation? Depression. Because of that dynamic in the world, since this is really where we should be, simcha, because that's who we are, and that's what our Veda has to be, therefore, what's going to be the most powerful energy contradicting that? Depression. And you look around at the world, we were talking about it yesterday, it's just so bizarre. The people in the world today should be the happiest people that ever walked around in Eilam Hazar. We have everything. It's pashut unbelievable. Right? Sometimes we kvetch because the plane was 2 hours late, so it took us 8 hours to get to LA from New York instead of 6. It used to take 2 weeks. Like, if it takes 8 hours, what's the big deal? Right? And it's not even like you're dirty when you get there. It used to be 6 weeks and you were covered in dust. Right?
If you made it.
If you made it. Right. If you made it. There were a lot of white supremacists on the way that were trying to kill you. Right? Right, 100%. Life is pretty good, right? It's pretty good.
Wasn't it also quite dangerous? Like, 1 out of every 5 people wouldn't make it.
Again, that's what the doctor just said. It was dangerous, 100%. Life is pretty good. Life is quite amazing. We now live in a world where, and I'm going to say something that's really very tragic, but we have to also appreciate that in a certain context. The single most tragic thing that happens in our world is the passing of a child. There's nothing more difficult than that. Well, to a certain degree, and I'm not lessening the pain of such a thing, but to a certain degree, the reason it's so tragic for us is because we live in such a blessed time. How many families in the history of the world until 80 years ago didn't lose a child? Almost every family lost a child. Almost impossible.
How long ago are we talking about?
Until antibiotics. Until, when was antibiotics? 80 years ago, 100, when was it? Doc, when was antibiotics?
Like 1940.
Okay, so 80 years ago. Until antibiotics, if a child got pneumonia, he died. Now a child gets, and children get pneumonia, right? I mean, I don't know. I'll ask my wife because Baruch Hashem, I'm married to a doctor, so I never had to worry about any of this. If a kid was sick, I just opened up a sefer, looked holy, and my wife took care of the whole show, right? So it was very comforting. I mean, because it's very nerve-wracking when your child is sick. It really is very nerve-wracking, especially you don't know what's going on. Well, I didn't have to know what was going on because someone did. So, and my wife, she loves our children, obviously, but when the phone rings, it's one of the kids, and I hear them on the other end. I always ask her, who's sick? Which of the grandchildren has a this or that or this? One of our sons called yesterday. I heard his voice through the phone. She hung up. I said, "What's a problem with Mushy?" Yeah, she's okay. He's not gonna. We get along, don't worry. But children are busy. They're not gonna call all the time, right? Okay, so it's an amazing world we live in. It's an amazing life we have. It doesn't mean it's perfect, but that also is part of the, so to speak, joke of it all. We actually have this. It's so good. We have this a priori assumption that it should be perfect, and if anything happens, we'd fall to pieces. Now, I hope that we is not including the people in this room, because hopefully you're sophisticated enough to realize that God runs the world and whatever He gives us is good, and we can deal with it like an adult and not have to go to a room with pudding and Lego. But because it's what we're being sold, and it's a lie, and it's a dangerous lie. The American dream is, and the line that people are sold, and this is a root of the Depression, there's no question, is that if you play your cards right, you'll never have to have a serious challenge in life. If you exercise properly, you won't have any health, and eat properly, you won't have health challenges. If you get the right degree and do everything you're supposed to do, you won't have any financial challenges. And if you read all the right books and watch the right Tony Robbins videos, you won't have any emotional challenges. Tony Robbins?
Which world is this?
Well, that's what they're selling, but that's not true, right? And I think people therefore people have a very hard time when it doesn't work, so to speak. I mean, people can do that to Yiddishkeit, right? I don't understand. I started keeping Shabbos and Kashrus, and I still have issues in my life, and nothing's perfect. Well, Boker Tov, welcome to Elam Hazeh, right? I mean, that's real life. The fact that you're keeping Shabbos means that God is going to solve all your problems? No, that's not how the world works. You're supposed to keep Shabbos. You should have been keeping Shabbos for 20 years. So you'd still have issues, right? Okay. But the idea that I won't, or that I shouldn't, theoretically I shouldn't have any real challenges is a misnomer. And that, but for whatever reason, the people are walking around with their chin on their knees. They should be walking around dancing all day because things are so good. I'm not saying that it wasn't painful to see, but I had a fascinating experience on our way to Australia. We went through Delhi because we wanted to go into Delhi to see some friends who run a Chabad house there. And so we went into the Chabad house, and there's two Chabad houses in Delhi. One is for the Israeli tourists, and that's in the market, and that's an amazing place, just absolute mayhem, incredible action. And there's another Chabad house run by Shneur Kupchak, who's the head shaliach there, and that's in the neighborhoods. And most of the people that frequent his Chabad house are Israeli diplomats and people who are there for the arms industry and agriculture, etc. They're all Israelis, businessmen. India's the largest middle class in the world. There's 500 million people in the middle class in India, so there's quite a serious economy. So there's some money floating around, even though you can get shampoo for 10 rupees, and it's like, what's a rupee? I mean, it's right. And you can get a cab into town for 20 shekels. So and it's an hour ride. So it's an interesting place. So we went to see Shneur, and he took us. He says he takes everybody who comes to visit him. He took us 6-7 blocks from his house. We got in a cab, and we went to a neighborhood. There was one that was probably Well, I've never seen a neighborhood of people that poor in my life. Well, the houses, the places where people lived were stepped down, concrete, smaller than this table, maybe to Izzy to me, from Izzy to me. That was the whole place. Pots and pans on the wall, like a stove, no electricity, no running water, no door. There was a woman sitting by the door. She was sitting outside on a chair by the door to her house. And he asked, could we go in? She said, yeah. We went in and looked around. So it's rather hard for someone from the West to see this. We walked around and Lily said, did you notice something? I said, no, what am I supposed to notice? I said, no one here asked you for a handout? Not one person? Oh. That's interesting. I hadn't noticed, but it was striking that once he had mentioned it to me. He said, this neighborhood, there is absolutely no crime. None. No such thing. Doesn't exist. No one takes anybody else's stuff. They have a little stuff. Well, they have a lot of stuff, but have some little stuff. There's no televisions to steal. There's no electricity. Right? So he was walking around and he was saying, I take everybody here because he said, these people obviously live a life that you and I couldn't live. There's no question about it. And there's a certain tragic aspect of it. There's no question about that. They might have been, I don't know, I was talking about it with my wife after, they might have been, I'm not sure, you would know this better than I, they might have been what used to be called the untouchables. But you can't say that anymore, right? But could they? Is that possible or not? Could be. Okay.
This
So,
was meaning because of sickness?
well, not sickness, but because of social that touching them was bad for you, etc. They were literally, pushed off to the side. But
It was a caste that was involved in doing things like cleaning the streets, taking care of the dead, things like that, which were considered to be the lowest of the services.
they were called, in the old days, they were called the untouchables.
Well, as
And evidently, that's still in the heads of everybody. Just no one can say it. You don't say it anymore.
Amnon didn't know because he's from a Brahmin.
Which was the highest caste.
Which is the highest. Brahman, of course, comes from what root? Avram. Avram sent his children to the east with the secrets of Tuma. Brahman. Avram. People of Avram. That's where it all came from. So, next week's parsha. So, this week's parsha. So we were talking about it. He said, would we describe these people as happy? I don't know. I mean, they have a very hard life. No running water, right? So there's these plastic containers of water everywhere, all over, that the city just puts there and people take. There's a place on the street that we were on. We didn't walk all the way down to the end of it, but there was a place that was the communal shower. So it was off to the side. And I imagine, I'm not sure, there must have been some sort of curtain in front of it. I'm not sure, because there was some guy over there all covered with soap, and he was, singing away and busy cleaning himself up. And he was standing in the middle of the street. He had on shorts, and he was busy, showering away. More shampoo, more lather there than you've ever seen in the mikveh, right? And whatever, and then how you get it off, I'm not sure. I mean, do you pour it off? Is there some sort of mechanism that you can sort of pull in a bunch of water? I don't know. I didn't go into the shower, but that's how the people shower. So don't complain about the showers in the dorm or in the mikveh. Right? So now, were they depressed? Definitely not. That's what was so interesting. No crime. Seemingly, this is who we are. This is the way it works, and they're dealing with it. No one was asking, you have a better life than me. That's unfair. Give me your money. No one asked for a nickel. And he said he takes every visitor to his house to the neighborhood and walks around with them, that they should see. And he mentions to everybody, and no one has ever been asked for a nickel or a rupee. A rupee wouldn't help much, No one's ever been asked for 14,000 rupees. And how many rupees do $1?
20, 30.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. When you walk around with with shekels in your pocket in India, you feel rich. Which is fascinating. So there's a mindset to it. So back to our mimer, the Rebbe says that the eved of our generation is simcha. That's what's going to bring about the desired results both in our personal life and in the general eved that we have to do in Eilam Hazeh to bring Mashiach. Okay. Therefore, what's the biggest klipa? The opposite. The negative energy in the world now is depression.
So,
Because the positive energy is simcha.
so the closer we get to Mashiach, you'll kind of see those two things just get more and more extreme, more holiness, more evil.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting, isn't it? That if you take a step back from the world we live in, there is no reason that that doesn't mean people don't have hard things in their life. Everybody has hard things in their life, but everybody always had hard things in their life, right? And if you think about your grandparents or great grandparents, depending, I think it's great grandparents now, right? Might even be great great grandparents. I'm not sure if it's that case. I'll faint. So, how was their life? And what kind of people were they? And were they, generally happy people? Were they productive people? Well, yeah. Were they people, how many people in the generation of my grandparents, that might be your great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, how many people in that generation passed away in the same place they grew up? And I don't mean the same city, I mean the same country. How many of them were completely uprooted at some point in their life from where they started, had to go to a completely new place, learn a new language, learn a new culture, and somehow figure out how to make it in life, and guess what? They did, and they were besimcha.
Mm-hmm. And say goodbye to their family, like if they left.
Say goodbye to the family if there was a family left to say goodbye to.
I know a person.
Okay, but say them. I didn't say there are none. I asked how many. So we know there's one now. Baruch Hashem. Abe Yurdanist, who comes to learn in Arzal almost every day from Australia, right? If people know him, okay. Abe grew up in Melbourne, Australia. Abe went to Yeshiva in Melbourne, Australia. Abe's what? Mid-50s, maybe early 60s? Okay. Abe went to Yeshiva in Australia. He said there was one guy in his class with grandparents. One. Because who came to Australia? Survivors. Who'd they come with? No one. No grandparents, no aunts and uncles, no one. Isn't that interesting? A whole family without grandparents. He said no one had grandparents. No such thing. Okay. That's a hard life. That's a different life. Not exactly how, we're being upset because the hot water's not working today and the plumber can only come on Wednesday. Okay, that's annoying, but I don't know whether that's a reason that my life is not good. It's annoying. And if your car breaks down and you don't have a car and you're taking cabs for a week and it might even mean you need a new car and you don't necessarily have the funds for it right now and you're going to have to sort of run around and figure out how to deal with it and it's going to be a pain in the neck. Okay, it's a pain in the neck. No question. Is it a difficulty in life? No. Difficulty in life is a health issue, an emotional issue, problems with your children, problems in a relationship with a wife. That's certainly your husband. That can certainly be very, very, very upsetting and difficult to deal with. Okay. I don't have a car for a week. Okay, so that's why they made Ubers, right? So take an Uber and get over it. And don't take it out on your wife, your children, or the people you work with, because then you're a moron. Right? Don't be a moron. Be an adult. So an adult can deal with things and say, Baruch Hashem, all in all, it's pretty good. Right? The story we've told 5,000 times, right? The Rebbe Marash, a chassid, was complaining about everything. That itself is an oxymoron, but okay. We talk about military intelligence, so we can talk about a chassid complaining about things. Another oxymoron, right, Doc? Just yesterday, Izzy mentioned to me, we were talking about the possibility of making the American government efficient. He said, government efficiency is an oxymoron. Actually, I just heard a good line. You would appreciate it since you saw it all up close. Ronald Reagan said, the closest thing we have to immortality is a government program. It's such a great line. It's just going to be there forever. No one knows what it does. It doesn't even do anything anyway, but it's just there. It's such a great line. He was had a chap sometimes. So the Red Marash there was a guy and he had a white wall behind him and there were 3 black dots on the wall. And the Red Marash asked him, what's on the wall? He said, 3 black dots. Red Marash said, Tippish, the whole wall is white and all you saw were 3 black dots. How you look at it, right? The whole wall was white. He saw 3 black dots. Now I understand why he saw 3 black dots, because he takes for granted the wall was white. I get that. Well, don't take for granted that the wall is white. Life is pretty good. There's problems. It's not perfect. Of course it's not perfect. We didn't bring Mashiach yet. Boker Tov. Wake up. We got to bring Mashiach. It'll be even better. Okay, but it's pretty good. That doesn't mean we don't all have problems. We have things in life that don't work the way we want them to work. Okay, beseder. Be besimcha. Be joyous in the fact that you have the opportunity to relate to the Eibishter in any way you want and how you want and when you want. Certainly people sitting and learning Torah all day, my goodness gracious me. What a life. Right? Okay. It's a blast. So then, not everything's perfect. Not everything's perfect. I get it. Right? My shoelace broke. Oh my gosh. What am I going to do? My shoelace broke. Such a pain. I can't get to the shoe guy until Wednesday. And I'm going to have to I had to redo the whole thing. It took so much time. And one end doesn't have the little piece of plastic. It's just, frayed and it doesn't look right. Then what am I going to do? Boy, there's real trials and tribulations in life that we have to deal with. Okay, so we saw the second reason. We're on such a high level, really it should all be besimcha. Wow. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15. 15 lines down. There's a period. That's what we got. So I just read that last line. I could probably count 15 lines up also, but I guess I should have because we like going up. We can add, this is the third reason. Al pia mavur b'igeres tshuva. Based on what the Alter Rebbe explains in Igeres tshuva Sham. Now, of course, we've just seen something quite astounding, that the Alter Rebbe writes something in Tanya, and the Rebbe is telling us for our generation that's not relevant. You have to have big shoulders to say that. That's what the Rebbe said. Okay, what's the third reason? Inyan tshuva tata, misech meridus. This whole idea of breaking our heart to do tshuva, hu pamachas b'shvua, generally, when is that done? It's done once a week, lifnei yom Shabbos, before Shabbos. Bahainu, what does that mean? Belel shishi. Lel shishi means Thursday night. The night of Yom Shishi, right? Yom Shishi is Erev Shabbos. What's night comes before day in the Hebrew, in the way we count time. So Leil Shishi is Thursday night. That's why we always have a hard time telling people when to come to a wedding, because the wedding's at night. Right? So Tuesday night, everybody knows when Tuesday night is. Okay, so what's come to the wedding is Yom Chamishi, at night. Okay, is that Wednesday night, which is the night of the 5th day, or is that Thursday night? Okay, so how do we get past that problem? What does it always say in a wedding invitation? Yom Shishi, the night of Yom Chamishi, the night of Yom Chamishi at 8 o'clock at night. What does that mean? That means Wednesday night. Doesn't mean Thursday. It's Wednesday night. That would mean Thursday night. The of Yom Chamishi, meaning the end of Yom Chamishi at night. Okay, i.e. Leil Shishi. So Leil Shishi, what's Leil Shishi? Leil Shishi is the end of the week. And what is a reasonable thing to do at the end of the week? Make what's called a cheshbon nefesh, make an accounting of those things that worked during the week and those things that didn't work during the week, and break our hearts relative to those things that we might have done that were not exactly in line with the purpose of our creation, and go further. So that broken heart was done generally once a week, because after all, and we talked about this the other day, this is, even if breaking our heart is a useful thing to do and we'll do it properly, it's not to be done at 3 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm at work and I have what to do. Right? That's like, don't sit on the ground and pour ashes on your head and you're at work. Do what you're supposed to do. When might I have time to sit back and take a look at what's happened? Okay, there are times at generally end of the week, end of the month, end of the year. That's usually when we make a cheshbon nefesh, right at the end of things. Okay, company will sit down and have a meeting and say, what worked and what didn't work, and let's change what happened. Now, there's a way to do this also, but okay, that's not our issue right now. The question is when. And the when is Thursday night. Now the Rebbe says an amazing thing. Before we see what the Rebbe says, we have to understand something. We are in the 6th millennium of the world's history, right? 5785, so that means we're in the 6th thousand, right? True. When you say Tehillim, if you're 22, you say Kapitel 23 because you're in the 23rd week of your life. A year of your life. You finish 22, and then you have a day, and it's called your 23rd birthday. Interesting enough, you don't celebrate the end of the 22nd year. You celebrate the first day of the 23rd year. Okay, right? There's ways of celebrating the end of something. Called graduating, and there's a way of celebrating the beginning of something. A birthday is actually the beginning of something. It's the beginning of the next year, the beginning of your 23rd year, if you turn 23. Sorry, if you turn 22. Okay, so every millennium is one of the days of creation. The first 1,000 years of the world's history relate to Yom Rishon. The second 1,000 years of the world's history relate to Yom Sheni. The third millennium relates to Yom Shlishi. The first 2,000 years of the world's history were called 2,000 years of Tohu, chaos. We just read the stories, pretty chaotic, right? At the end of that 2,000 years, someone shows up. His name is Avram Avinu. He was born in the year 1948 in the world's history, right? End of 2,000 years, right? What does he usher in? 2,000 years of Torah. That's the third millennium and the fourth millennium. That ends with the destruction of the second temple, which ushers in the third period, which is the 2,000 years of Mashiach. 2,000 years where the focus is on ultimately bringing Mashiach for the third temple. And that starts in the year 4001, right? And those two, the 4001 to 5000 is Yom Hamishi, that's the 5th day. 5001 to 6000 is Yom Hashishi, is the 6th day. Okay. The 6th day, of course, like every Jewish day, starts with the night. First 500 years are the night of that day, and the next 500 years are the daytime of that day. Okay, who showed up in the year 5500? Baal Shem Tov. Daybreak on the 6th day. What's the 6th day? The day before Shabbos. Who showed up as the sun rose on the 6th day of creation in a larger Baal Shem Tov to usher in Shabbos. Okay, so where are we, the Rebbe says. Now this mimer was said in the year 5746. The Rebbe talked about this almost every week in the year 5750, this idea, but even 46 is close enough. Now we're past that. So the Rebbe says as follows. This is the third reason. We are standing today, Be'elef Hashishi, in the 6th millennium, right? Cut of the Sefer, near its end. We're past midday. Not only were we past midday, we're past midday of the day, right? We're past noon. Noon would be 5750. Right? Okay. Hainu, cut of the Sefer, Yom Hashishi. We're near the end of the 6th day. Loirak b'yom Hashishi. Not only are we in the day of Shishi, loy leil Shishi, and not the night, that would be daybreak. Ela b'yom ze'atzmai, in the day itself, karav l'siyumai, we're more than halfway through the day. Karav l'yom Shabbos, which means we're close to Shabbos. Oh, so what should our focus be? Im kein pshita, it's obvious. Shaveda b'zman hazeh misech simcha, the tshuva law. Obviously, our avodah has to be simcha, the tshuva law. Why? What's obvious? Well, what are we looking forward to? What's our whole focus? Shabbos. Shabbos. Right? Shabbos. Now, Thursday night, what might our focus be? The mistake I made on Tuesday, and I have to fix it. Shabbos afternoon, at 2 p.m, what are you thinking about? Shabbos. What happened during the week? It has nothing to do with what's going on right now. Right? Do you think the store's still open? It's 2. I mean, in America, Baruch Hashem, the store's always open. It has an advantage of chutzlaritz. If you forgot something at 2 p.m. that you need for Shabbos, well, go to the store. It's open. It's going to be open after Shabbos, right? But here in Eretz Yisrael, if 2 p.m, you remember you don't have whatever it is that's absolutely necessary for your wife to cook, whatever it is that she wants to cook, so they, oh my gosh, she's just trying to get in your car and you run to the store, and oh, Baruch Hashem, they're still open. And the guy, oh, what are you doing here? I'm just closing up. Please. Yeah, no, go get it. Okay. Fine. Okay. What's the craziest time in every Jewish house? Erev Shabbos, afternoon. Now look at the world. What's the world look like? Erev Shabbos. 3:30 in the afternoon. Mayhem. Craziness. Oh, right? Working with that creature that people call Balei Tshuva. Right? So when you have Balei Tshuva as guests for Shabbos, so they always ask, when should I come? And what's the answer? As late as possible. Because the last thing you want them to see is what a Jewish home looks like at 2:30 in the afternoon, Erev Shabbos, because that'll turn them off Yiddishkeit forever. Right? Absolute mayhem. Just, bumper cars bumping into each other in the amusement park. Did you take your shower? No, get in the shower. There's not going to be hot water for everybody else. You can't, come on, let's go. Mandy, the floor. Yeah. In a minute. Not in a minute. Now. Right? Lots of energy, lots of action, lots of people bumping into each other, right? Okay. The calm after is amazing, but the especially winter, for some reason we fill up summer Shabbos, summer Friday just as much as we fill up a winter Friday. So, now these are the earliest Shabbosim of the year, so somehow we have to get it all done by 4:00. Okay, so we manage, and if we have it till 8:00, it's still the same mad rush in the last 45 minutes for some reason, not quite sure, but that's just the way it always is. Okay, there are certain families where you walk into their house at 6, an hour before licht, and the children are all bathed, and they're all in their Shabbos clothes, and they're sitting on the couch reading, and the candles are set up, and the table's set, and it's calm, and you just wonder what drugs these people are on. Like, what are they, how did they manage to, pull this off? There are houses like that, but rare, few. Most of us, it's a mad rush to the end. Okay. Erev Shabbos, Karev l'Chatzos, Erev Shabbos, Karev l'Shabbos. That's where we are in the world's history. Okay, so what's our focus? Our focus isn't on what was happening during the week. Our focus is on Shabbos is coming. That's indeed the focus that started with the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov turned the heads of the Jewish people around completely. And interesting enough, one of the innovations of the Baal Shem Tov is that we should start celebrating birthdays. We celebrate a birthday. What's a birthday? We're talking about what's a birthday? A birthday is the first day of the next year. It's not the graduation from being 22. It's the first day of being 23. What's the difference? Well, am I looking back to what was, or am I looking forward to what will be? Baal Shem Tov turns everybody's heads around. Up until the Baal Shem Tov, what were the Jewish people talking about? Oh, what we used to have, this beautiful Beis HaMikdash. It was so beautiful, and we don't have it. And what did the Baal Shem Tov do? Turned everybody's heads around. Oh, how beautiful it's going to be. Mashiach is on his way. Wow, it's going to be amazing. Baal Shem Tov says, this is all about ushering in Immerse Mashiach. That's what this is about. It's Torah Mashiach. So that's Yom Shishi in the day, and the Rebbe says we're not only in the day, we're past half day. 5750 would be punkt the half day. So the Rebbe's talking 3-4 years before that. Okay. So then what's our focus? On the goodness that's coming, on Shabbos that's coming. Shabbos is called Yom Simchaschem, the day of your Simcha. Chazal say Yom Simcha Pasuk in Devarim, Yom Simchaschem, Eilu Shabbatchem. These are your Shabboses. Right? Shabbos is the day of Simcha. What's Simcha? Simcha's where Simcha come from? Simcha comes from the fact that we see God in our lives. Anxiety comes from a lack of understanding of what's going on. Right? I'm in a state of anxiety when things don't make sense. When I'm just not, I can't put it together. So I find that it makes me anxious. What's supposed to be? If I know exactly why something is happening, so then I'm able to deal with that in a very, very positive and useful way. Simple example. Someone's had knee pain for 6 months. Goes to the orthopedist. The orthopedist says, you know what? You've got some stuff in there. We just have to clean it out. It'll be 2 weeks of discomfort after the operation. It's not so terrible, and we'll clean it out. And I can do it in about 2 months. You can have an appointment in 2 months. This guy's very excited about Baruch Hashem. In 2 months, I'm going to go through 2 weeks of discomfort. That's very exciting. Why is he not upset about this 2 weeks of discomfort? He knows exactly why he's going through 2 weeks of discomfort, because after the 2 weeks of discomfort, he's going to not have pain in his knee, and he's perfectly willing to deal with that. It doesn't bother him at all. Then he gets a call from the secretary, and the secretary says, there's been a cancellation. If you want, you could do this operation in a week. So he calls up his wife, says, I've got great news. What? I'm going to go through 2 weeks of discomfort in a week, not in 2 months. I'm so excited. I'm going to be in pain in a week. That's the greatest. So she thinks he's off the wall. That's not true. She knows exactly what he's saying. Since it's absolutely clear to both of them that all things being equal, these operations are generally successful. It's people, but generally, 99% of the time, the operation is successful. And he's not going to have knee pain 2 weeks after the operation, and his life is going to be different because the knee pain is really, really bothering him. Okay. He's going to descend into a pain that's much more severe than the knee pain he feels all day. That's true. But that's only for a limited period of time. He's besimcha. Why? Because it's absolutely clear what's going on. He doesn't have any problem with that. When does he have a problem? When it's not clear what's going to be and then he might be anxious. When the doctor doesn't tell him it's going to clear it up and it'll be fine, the doctor says, look, this is the story, and there's about doctors love to give statistics. There's a 30-70 chance that it's going to work, which doesn't mean anything, right? Because it's either 100% or 100%. Either it worked or it didn't. For you, it's 100% it did or 100% it didn't. Okay, 30-70. Is that a good statistic or not such a good statistic? Well, if it's hitting a baseball, you're making about $25 million a year if that's your statistic, right? But if you're dealing with human life, maybe that's not such a good statistic. You want to be in the 70, not in the 30, right? Okay. So that might be anxious. That might cause, it shouldn't, but I realize why that might cause anxiety, because it's not clear what's going to be. Okay, so then that Jew, what's his challenge? See the elokus in it. See that still this is as much a part of my relationship with God as anything else that happens in my life. The Abish is taking care of me. First of all, Trakud v'zayin good would work pretty well, right? Trakud v'zayin good, be b'simcha, everything's going to be okay. I don't understand why, but for whatever reason, the Abish decided that this is what I should be going through, and ultimately it's for my good, and I can deal with this in a positive way. Okay. Dealing with the knee operation, that's easy. The other one takes Aveda. But what's the Aveda? To see the elokus in it. As soon as I see the elokus in it, then I can be b'simcha relative to it. Because that's what day of the week is it rather easy to touch a little godliness in our lives? Shabbos. So it's a day of simcha. It's a day of joy. And we enjoy it. We enjoy it in Gashmias also. Right? The food is a little better and we have more time and we can sleep in the morning. No nudnik is sitting there at 7:30 waiting for a Chassidus class, right? We can get up a little later. Okay, Baruch Hashem. It's good. It's good in Gashmias. It's good in Ruchnias. Sitting for Brang. Listen to Rabbi Vichlan tell some good stories, some good jokes, some interesting ideas, some thought-provoking things. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Simcha. Simcha is when it's clear. Anxiety is when it's unclear. Now, there are times in life when it's unclear. Our job is to fight through the lack of clarity and realize that there's as much clarity there as in any other event. It's just I can't see it, but it's there because it's still the Eibishter. This is as much God as anything else. Okay, that's a challenge. Well, that's real life. Welcome to Eilam Hazeh.
So you're saying that when someone's going through a hardship, the main thing is to have gratitude. That's like
Well, to appreciate the fact that what I don't understand why, and that annoys us, right? Because we like understanding why, but we have to be able to pull back from that. So I don't understand why, and I don't understand why I'm going through the. I mean, to put it in a slightly different way, right? In a Farbrengen way. The single most unnecessary and dangerous question that anybody can ask when dealing with anything difficult is, why me? Stay away from there, because you don't know the answer and you're just going to get depressed. Don't go there. I don't know why me. God knows. I don't. Okay, but I still know it's him, and I still know that somehow this is supposed to be, and we can deal with it. I mean, sometimes people are dealing with really, really hard things. But you know, it's always so, and we've seen so many stories of this over the last year and a half as well, when people have been dealing with very difficult things. Many, 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 many people in this country have lost loved ones in the last year. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have lost loved ones. Thousands. And what's so astounding is every time you hear those people talking, they just give you strength from their strength. They're amazing. They're just amazing, these people. Okay. Now, we don't want that in order to reveal the strength that we have in it. The Eibishter is very kind to us and is not giving us those trials and tribulations. And we ask every day, lately, we ask Kadosh Baruch, I don't want a trial. I don't want to be tested. Life is enough of a test. But how to deal with it? Realize that it's all the Eibishter, and I might not understand it. I don't get it. Okay, but it's still him, and he's pushing my buttons, and he wants a proper response. Simcha. Simple story we always tell. You're on your way to teach a class. You're on your way to go to a class. You're on your way to do something that you understand is what God wants you to do with your life. And you get a flat tire on the way, and you can't make it. Okay, so I guess, what's the Eibishter? If the Eibishter is part of your life, then what just happened? I thought my relationship with God was connected to that class I'm going to teach, I'm going to be part of, whatever it happens to be. God thought different. God thought that my relationship with him is changing this tire, b'simcha. Change the tires singing a Hasidic niggin, because that's what God wants from you right now. He doesn't want you in that class. How do you know? He just made your tire flat. It's his fault, always. Okay. So what does he want from me? He wants me to change the tire, b'simcha. Okay, so I lose. Okay, God, this is what you want? I'm not so into it, to be perfectly honest. If I were you, I wouldn't have done this, but okay, I'm not you. All right? And I'm going to change the tire b'simcha, and I'll show you. You can't push me down, God. No way. And that's what he wants. He doesn't want to push us down. He just wants us to be real. And sometimes that takes a little, pushing our buttons here and there. He's good at pushing our buttons. But he's the one holding us up the whole time anyway. So, is it always easy to see that in the moment? No. Sometimes we'll lose that, right? Two guys, cars kiss going into the same parking lot in the strip mall. One guy slams his wheels, gets out of the car. You idiot! You jerk! You fool! Look what! Another guy sits in his car for 30 seconds. Says, "Okay, Eibishter, this is what you want. This is what you get. I'll be calm. I'll be b'simcha, and I'll deal with this." One of them saw God, and one of them didn't. I mean, that's real life, right? I mean, one of them saw God in this event and related to it completely different. The other guy saw a jerk who hit his car, who might have not been at fault. It might have been his fault, but he doesn't. That's impossible to imagine. Can't be my fault, because if it's my fault, then I'm a lowlife and an idiot, and I don't want to be that because I'll feel bad about myself. So it must be his fault. We can see ourselves in both of those guys, right? And we have to work very hard to be the guy who's sitting there calmly and not be the guy who's a raving lunatic. But we're also that raving lunatic sometimes. And we just lose it. We go, oh, and then you go, whoa, 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 whoa. You know where it's hardest? I don't want to make anybody nervous. But who usually brings out the worst in us? Our children. Usually we act the worst around our children, meaning we'll lose our temper more than with anybody else. Okay, we have to be very careful not to do that. Right? But I mean, it's very easy to lose your temper with your children. Why? Well, why do I lose my temper? Because I have the improper understanding that life is supposed to work in accordance with my will, but that's not true. It's supposed to work in accordance with God's will. Okay, but when it doesn't go my way, so I might get upset. Okay. Silly idea. God runs the world, not you. Okay, fine. We can usually deal with that in normal, but with children, they really are supposed to listen to me. It really is supposed to be my will that is running the show here, because I'm the father and they're the child, and they're supposed to listen to me. I know that's old-fashioned, but you better run your house that way, or you'll end up messing up your kids. All right? You're the boss. What you say goes. But they didn't listen. Ooh, that's even harder to deal with. Okay, still have to deal with the befuma. Okay, let's go a little further in the Immerse so the Rebbe can talk after I've been pontificating up here. The last words you'll hear will be the Rebbe's words, because they're definitely true. What I say could be, could not be, you never know. All right? You know that famous philosophical question? If a husband speaks and his wife doesn't hear him, is he still wrong? So my wife's not in the room, so I don't know whether. Okay. It's obvious. Because we're preparing for Shabbos. Shabbos. We're so excited. The Tshuva law. So one more line. But see where we're going to go. We'll go there Sunday, B'ez Hashem. Ukamavur b'geras hatshuva sham shetshuva ilah hi inyan izdavkus rucha berucha bebechinas neshikin. What's tshuva ilah? The clinging of spirit to spirit in the quality of kissing. I mean, the Abishah is giving us a kiss because he loves us so much, and he does love us. He's completely and totally invested in every single one of us. Why? I don't know. He is. Okay. But we also have to open up to that. And it's not easy, because naturally we are also completely and totally invested in me. I just can't hear any other noise. I gotta start hearing the music, hearing some other noise. And we'll see whether I was going with this, how we express this in Aveda, this Simcha. And the famous mashal about Shem Tov, that a gentleman walks along the street and he sees a bunch of people dancing. They look so joyous, he can't figure out why are they dancing. Well, there's someone playing music and they're dancing to the music, but this person is deaf, so he doesn't hear the music, so he doesn't understand why they're dancing. Baal Shem Tov said, we have to hear the music, so we'll dance. Such an amazing model. Don't be deaf to the beautiful music of life in Olam Hazeh, God's garden. Yeah, it can also be a desert. It's also a garden. Enjoy it. Enjoy Olam Hazeh. Not Olam Hazeh mitzad Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh mitzad all the godliness everywhere. You're verbringing with God every moment of your life. Enjoy the verbringing. Just let him speak, though. You don't have to make so much noise so you can't hear him talk. Life in Olam Hazeh. It's not so easy, but it's a blast. So,
Thank you, Rabbi Kaplan.
No.